Shalom, family. It's your man Elijah. Thank you for joining me again at Unsectarian Wisdom. And as usual, I'm a wise, wealthy, rich, celestial being that is loved by the Most High Creator. Let's go ahead and jump in it. Family, we got another book we jump into. You can see it in the screen at the top. The Navigator Who Crossed the Ice Wall, Worlds Beyond Antarctica. So we're going to go ahead. This time, we're going to start from Chapter 1. Alright, Chapter 1, to Antarctica. Check my volume. Okay, we good. My name is William Morris, and the story that you are about to read, it is probably going to modify the current way of seeing the world. Okay, let me start again. Once again, this translation from, hold on, you know what? I'm not even going to blame it. Let's go. Let's do this, family. Okay. My name is William Morris, and the story that you are about to read, it is probably going to modify the current way of seeing the world. I know most of people will find it incredible, and believe me, even having experienced this adventure, having seen it with my own eyes and with all my senses, it was also incredible to myself. But the evidence is irrefutable for those who want to see it, and the memories indelible. Such evidence will be presented, and science will also change its perspective. Another path will be opened in the human mind forever. As for my personal life, I was a member of the Continental Navy, as the American Naval Force was called in the Revolutionary War. I was married to Lucy, and we were thinking of enlarging the family. But the war postponed every plan, as it usually does. With that pain that probably filled cutting the root of that shining tree that gives life to the garden. That immense pain that produces to move away from your loved ones and go to hell itself. One peaceful night after the surrender of Saratoga, we were sailing through the northern Atlantic Ocean, rounding the islands on our way to Charleston Harbor. The full moon was the only light that illuminated our way, and during that night thousands of stories and anecdotes arose among the boys over a little whiskey to calm the anxieties of a raw war. Even then, there was talk of James Cook's voyages and his obsession with crossing the Antarctic Circle, although it was not clear who was behind his funding or why the obsession. As I was not well steeped in the subject, the talk had not captivated me enough. I did not pay much attention, and the boys went on with the stories. Captain Butler, well respected in the group, joined in the sailing stories by commenting that it was possible that there was a passage somewhere in the polar circle, and that this passage could be the connector to other worlds. He said it seriously without a moment's hesitation. My attention turned to him, and the 5 or 6 of us in that cabin were speechless, listening to his story. We expected him to say that it was a joke, but that never happened. We could not believe that a captain was seriously telling that there could be lands behind the Antarctic Circle. Butler commented that he knew from good sources at the highest level that they were researching and funding voyages to penetrate the harsh climate and barriers in the southern latitudes to find possible land and perhaps civilizations beyond the Antarctic continent, and that they were in a hurry to carry out these missions as many civilian navigators were circling the area and did not look favorably on anyone else coming along. This story was even longer and in great detail. He also commented that he observed with his own eyes a map that indicated the coordinates that could be the opening of such a passage. And although he was stupefied by this story, and I think the others too, the fatigue and stress generated by a war conflict could not be wasted. It was the perfect moment of happiness that generates a breach of peace to be able to sleep a few hours. Time went by, and after the famous war, many of the ships used by the Continental Army were rented, destroyed, captured, or sold, as at that time I was a person of good economic standing, especially after a war that we could say triumphant. If after a war can be called so, I made an offer for one of them and managed to keep it, although my colleagues always scoffed at me because of that, as they say it was ridiculously high for such an old ship. The idea of the exploration trip to the south after Butler's story generated even more interest for me to bid and keep the ship, although it needed repairs, therefore some extra money. I felt no guilt, as I felt it as an investment, although I did not know the real danger of such a trip. I needed to provide for myself with a great navigation equipment. Although Lucy was not happy about this plan, I was planning to leave Charleston by the end of November and head, with a few stops along the way, straight to the Antarctic continent. During the idea of forming the team, I talked to former colleagues. Some of them made the most ridiculous excuses, and I don't blame them either. The idea of such a trip was really not encouraging. Two of them, who were there that same night that Butler told his story, wanted to join as soon as I told them about the plan. But the most difficult part was to convince Butler, who had knowledge in navigation based on his experience and leadership, and also knew the coordinates where he should go. After gathering courage for a few weeks, I contacted the captain to tell him about my project and add him to the group. It was difficult to convince the captain of such a plan, and although in his voice I noticed some enthusiasm, he declined my offer, and it was like that for a while. Unexpectedly, on the morning of October 11th, he showed up at my home with another companion named Fint. He had maps that I had never seen and was full of documents that very few was willing to understand that it could only be a one-way trip. Then I understood that we had to take this trip professionally. The adventure was about to begin. I can go ahead and go to chapter 2. Let's go ahead. Chapter 2, the Custodians. After such a phrase from the captain, let me show you guys. Chapter 2, the Custodians. After such a phrase from the captain, we finalized details and agreed on a departure date. It would be November 14th. His mysterious partner, Fint, as he introduced himself, would also join the team. My boat would be ready even a month before. Those were days of much anxiety and little sleep. A lot of reading and meeting with the team about the trip we were planning. We fantasized about the most incredible adventures, but reality was about to surpass any possible fiction or imagination. On November 12th, just 2 days before leaving, Fint, Butler's partner, showed up at my door with another man who looked even more mysterious than him, all dressed in black and with a strange accent. He told me it was urgent and I made them enter my home. Fint had a briefcase which he opened as soon as he entered on top of a table. Inside there were many documents, and among them he took out a kind of ancient manuscript and began to recite a part of it. Then by demand I subscribe in major importance. And began to recite a part of it. Then by demand I subscribe in major importance. Hereby desire of our lords that the doors of knowledge be closed to those who refuse to be part of our glorious path, and liberties granted. The text went on for several more lines, and then at the end, the so-called poem, Regis, was recited. As soon as he finished his reading, I commented that it seemed that he was in some kind of initiation rite. It was then when Fint commented, "Exactly, comrade. Precisely, those who did not pass this initiation are the marginalized. Better said, we are the marginalized." "Fint," I demanded, "please explain a little. I'm not understanding anything. What does this text mean? And what does it have to do with our trip?" "Look," Fint commented, "I'm going to explain a little of the situation. This manuscript belongs to the Custodians. as we call them, or as they call themselves, the sun gods. And they found out about your trip through Butler. The high spheres are aware of it, and it does not make them happy. This manuscript raises that they will not let anyone leave these lands by demand of the lords. The situation could not get any worse. An adventure that was already risky enough due to the harsh weather and everything that could happen to us due to natural events. Now we were adding these unknown enemies. Who are these custodians? I asked. Fent went around in circles, and his strange friend opened his mouth for the first time, interrupting. He commented that these custodians were not happy about our trip, and that was the only thing they could tell me. Fent then suggested that we should cancel it, that it wasn't worth risking our lives. He said it with a threatening tone. That's when I then invited them to leave my house immediately. His strange friend looked at me defiantly, and they left. After a few minutes, I tried to communicate with Butler to ask him what was happening and comment on the situation of this strange visit. Butler never answered, neither that day nor the following ones. I gathered the emergency team to analyze how to continue. This travel plan was becoming dark and sinister, but an inner force pushed me to continue. The passage to other lands was becoming even more real, but also more dangerous. Ooh. We met with the whole team. Butler was not there. Nobody knew about him for weeks. He was missing. I told them the whole sequence about the visit of Fent and his partner. Also about the manuscript Walter said he had heard something about. The Custodians. But he was not sure who they really were, or if it was a secret organization. The situation was not at all encouraging. Butler did not show up, and the plan without him seemed impossible to carry out. Besides, the risk it seemed to entail against an unknown organization that was chasing us without even having left port. We made the decision to postpone the trip again until we could find Butler. We would try again to find him at his home the next day. As expected, we were unable to find Butler, and the chances of the trip were being destroyed by the minute, along with the concern of the captain's whereabouts. The team also communicated with other known people and members of the naval force. Nobody knew anything about him. It seemed as if he had been swallowed by the earth. November 14th arrived with the plan already canceled. Someone knocked on my door, and to my total surprise, it was Captain Butler, without provisions, maps, and everything necessary to leave. Oh, okay, now I say with my bad. It was Captain Butler with provisions, maps, and everything necessary to leave. He commented to me as if it was nothing. It is time to leave, comrade. I asked him as many times as possible where he had gone, and I also had to explain to him the strange last 2 days that the whole team had spent. He looked at me very cold and commented, "It was to be expected. I had to hide for security and priority to protect the documents needed for the plan, especially this map. While I was unfolding it on the table in my living room, it was huge. There was land I had never seen before. Butler ordered me to assemble the team and that we have to leave today. I asked him if he knew the Custodians, and he told me that there was a lot he had to tell. The story is not the one we were told. William, the creators of the pyramids, and another race, as they also call them, Custodians, have no interest in us crossing the South Pole. He told me that they found out about our travel plan via Fent, who had betrayed him, and that trip had to be made today or we would never be able to make it. He also commented that we would have plenty of time later on to give me more details about all this once we are sailing. I hurried to gather the whole team. Once we were all together, we left the port of Charleston. We had a few stops before reaching the frozen areas of the South. It's already like an exciting movie. I'm excited to hear the rest. I want to go hop on a boat myself now and go travel somewhere. But anyway, family, that's it for that. Without further ado, as usual, I am a wise, wealthy, rich, celestial being that is loved by the Most High Creator. All right, family, we got it. I'll catch you later. Be blessed, family. I enjoyed you.